Welcome to the IDP Hunter Show. I'm your host, Real IDP Hunter. I'm joined tonight by some special guests. I got Mase Riney from USA Today. I got AJ Veal, a former U.S. Army writer and also writer over at the IDP Center. We're going to talk about this NFL Combine, okay? This Combine may have been the best Combine, at least in my lifetime. I'm going to tell you, the NFL.com right now, defensive tackles, defensive linemen, linebackers, and tight ends, fastest times they've ever seen. So we're going to talk about our feelings, our thoughts on the subject. We're going to talk about our reactions. And last but not least, we had two tight ends duking it out for the top spot, like Rocky Balboa and Ivan Drago doing a punching montage. Okay? We're going to do all this today. Meanwhile, Aaron Glenn's going to be at his house sleeping. So stay tuned.
Battlefield to your fantasy lineup. Let's go! Bringing the lockdown, dropping bombs. We got the tight and the tackles, a quarterback's worst nightmare. Make some noise for the defensive dominator, IDP Hunter! And the ruler of the red zone, dropping dimes, running the offense like a boss. Big game, James! We bring the heat!
So if you guys just seen that, Jamie's not here right now, but that's his new music video. I just kind of like wanted to unveil it here on the show. Jamie's out doing best ball while we're knee deep in these rookies. Mase, I was going to start with you. What the heck's been going on with this Combine? And you got some good notes, bad notes. What grinds your gears?
Yeah, man. No one was there on media day, really, or scouts too. I guess not media day. When players, they'll go right before they do drills and stuff the day before, and they go and talk to them and get a feel for who these players really are as just people, and if they really vibe with what the team's overall mission and stuff is. But compared to the other position groups, the offensive linemen didn't get any love. Also, people were complaining about linemen doing 40s. I really want a big fluid guy that can run 40 yards down the field, 4.8, 4.9, whatever. Obviously, he's probably never going to do that unless if you got a highly motivated individual that's going down the field at the second level and blocking so that your running back can get those extra yards. But the real thing that pissed me off the most is that you have all these events, and the Combine used to be a place where you would showcase your talents. Obviously, there's no pads or anything like that, but it's just quarterback one laying up against quarterback two to compete. I'm talking like Brady Quinn and Jamarcus Russell back in the day, that kind of stuff. You don't really have that these days anymore. You have all these events and you have guys opting out. Obviously, Fernando Mendoza, I don't really think he should have thrown whatever. I get it. He's the top guy. He's going number one. The Raiders aren't trading it out. Okay. But everyone else, we saw guys like Sonny Styles go out there and just somehow make an even more filled case for him to go in the top five, even though maybe he's been sliding down boards lately. And
they're all business decisions.
Yeah.
The guy that I wanted to see that I'm really high on, the tackle from Miami, Francisco Mauigoa, right? The right tackle. He's been a staple on Miami's offense. And dude's just hanging out in his hoodie. Like, show us what you got. He's a top 5 pick for me. He's probably top 10 for everybody else. So it's like, if I go out here and I trip or I stumble or I look rough or whatnot, does it drop me down? I get it from that point, and I think guys have more to gain by participating than lose. But man, everything's a business decision. These kids are being trained coming out of high school now. They couldn't catch, and now they're playing DB. And they're like, what does that mean? And I was like, all these guys played wide receiver at one point in their career, and then they realized they don't have hands. And then I think we watched 6 drop passes by corners on the deep drill they were doing, just hitting right in the hands, drop, hitting right in the hands, drop. And my oldest, he's like, why are they dropping so many passes? I was like, because they're not receivers. I said they have the mindset of a receiver, which is why they're really good and they're elite. But that's why. So that's the first thing that stuck out. And I feel like this Combine, there wasn't a lot of hype around it. Maybe that's because the high quality players that we've seen in years past, like we've got great players, but that upper echelon guys, I don't think that exists this year. So it's kind of more like chill. We're going to get some quality starters along the way, but I don't think there's going to be like these like premier studs. You know what I'm saying? We didn't have like a Myles Garrett or somebody you knew was going to come in and be the guy from day one.
AJ, two questions out of what you guys just said here. The first one I'm going to ask, your tight ends, you did the tight end video over here. For those on Spotify, welcome in. For those on iHeartRadio, welcome in. We're talking to AJ Veal. He did the tight end ranking episode, if y'all want to look back on the YouTube. There was an explosion, at least for the offensive side, during the combine. This guy was like, well, I can do something. The other guy can be like, I can do something. So they kept matching each other blow for blow. Eli Stowers, 45.5-inch vertigo. Well, 0.5 shy of the record. Then you had Kenyon Sendiq, matched them toe-to-toe, 43.5-inch. He had a broad jump of 11.1. So these two back and forth, the premier position tight ends, do you have a favorite one now, or are you still sticking to your guns? What's your rationale?
Yeah, Sendiq would have had to have been like lost a leg to drop below the number one guy, no matter what. No, like he would have had to run a 4.9 and then had a horrible workout in order to completely drop. Number one and number two are now far away from the rest of the pack. They've completely separated. Sendiq's going to go in the first. Stowers will go somewhere in the second, and then everybody else, in my opinion, is like a late third, fourth, moving on. But they have separated from the pack. No matter what Stowers did or could have done, Sendiq running what he ran in the 40 locked dude in 100%.
And my second question for you, AJ, and this is going to be a good transition so we could pass it back to Mase. All these defensive linemen, we'll do interior and edge together, you know, who you liked, who didn't. But more specifically for you, you were talking about that bench press. There's a new bench press this year, right? It's measuring pressure and whatnot. Can you expound on that a little bit?
So I think it was like 2003, 2004. The record holder, Stephen Paella, I think he did like 47 or 48 reps, right? And it's just over and over. See how much endurance you have. As the years have progressed, we were 20-something odd years later, you know, technology is growing too. So it's basically an isometric hold, and it's used to measure explosiveness and functional strength. So I think as the combine progresses, we're going to start seeing more modified type of drills, more modified specialties per position group, like we saw in the military. The military is doing it too. You know, we're kind of tweaking things to better hone our bodies and key in on those fine-tuning metrics. The NBA was doing those really deep analytics years ago. Now the NFL is coming around. So with the growth of all of these analytics, we're really going to see, is the 40 time the end-all be-all of measurement of a player? Is that back in the day, like smoking cigs, wearing your sweater vest, you know, you're out there with your, you know, Rolex stopwatch, you know, like ordering from a cocktail waitress while you're running a guy's 40 time. You know, in the draft back in the day, when it was held in Chicago, there was no clock. There was no draft clock. The Cowboys,
you know, going back to what Mase said earlier, you just made me think. You're talking about a Cinderella long lost time of guys, the way they look. They're 30 years old, they look like they're 50, they're smoking cigars, they got the Tom Landry hat, right? That's a lost time. But what Mase said earlier, and you kind of alluded to it too, I wonder if we're in a lost time right now, huh? If you think about it, a lot of these guys show up to the combine, they're not even working out. They're not even bothering, like Mase said, right? Yeah. And then the guys, we got plenty of guys we scouted, like Aaron Graves, 100-plus tackles just sitting at home. He could have did some stuff. Do you think the combine itself is changing like those lost times? You think we're evolving into something else? Because if we don't got nobody working out, what are we going to watch?
I don't know. I think it's kind of getting to the point of where we see like the Pro Bowl, right? No one wants to do it, or like no one wants to actually hit, or just kind of things like that. I don't know what it is. I don't want to sound like like an old man here, but just with the new generation, things change, and some traditions, especially in culture, societally, they don't always stick, man. And what's worked for, I don't know, guys like us, may not work for the next generation. So also to kind of caveat off what AJ said about the analytics, we have a time where we have more data than anything. And no, data is not always the end all be all, like he was saying, but it's something that you can point to and look at. Now to look and match that with kind of what you see on the field, I feel like that's really kind of in process for us as like a football generation. We're trying to figure out exactly what kind of stats and stuff equate over to actual on the field production. But then there's so many variables on scheme and coach and all that stuff that, I mean, we're never really going to know. But at the end of the day, the more that it becomes publicized, which is kind of what we want, right? We've been watching this stuff for years, man. We had to try to find outlets who are out there hustling, looking for, combine data scalpers and stuff. And now all you have to do is literally lay in bed and you can go and look up seriously any and everything. And there's so much misinformation too. So I don't know. It's a lot going on, but I feel like it's going to have to change, especially if they're going to be airing all of it and promoting it the way that they are with the NFL. And with everything that they're trying to do, expand globally, blah, blah, blah. We can go for days about that. But I think it will have to in order to prosper.
The thing another thing to consider is the pro day. The pro day can be controlled. A player is going to have more say to a coach that he's known for 3 to 4 years. Coach, I want this on my pro. They don't want Kyle Trask throwing passes at the combine. They want the quarterback that they've taken over 1,000 reps with. Yeah. They're going to be able to set the drills. They know the field. I mean, you saw all the linemen slipping and sliding, Yeah. I think the pro day, as we continue to grow, the combine might move to like mini combines like we see for high school guys with camps across the country with these pro days. We might lead to that, like a Southeastern combine, a Northeast, a Midwest, West Coast, who knows? But I think that also impacts it too.
So in regards to what you guys both said, the analytics and the way this thing's going, I'm not used to seeing interior defensive linemen move like they were, especially during this combine. I'm going to give you a name, and then I'll let you guys go at it. You guys tell me, was there any defensive lineman in general that popped? The guy that popped for me, and I had this guy well below, and I'm trying not to be recency biased. I'm starting to move him up now. This guy's name is Zane Durant. Again, he's a defensive tackle. Why should I care, right? Let me tell you. 4.75 speed. You don't see that out of big dudes. 40-yard dash. That ranked first amongst all the interior defensive linemen. That record is the 4th fastest DT time since 2003. 2003. I don't even want to know where you guys were in 2003. Forget I said that. By the way, Zane Durant also 33.5 vertigo. This guy can dunk, right? That ranked 3rd. His broad jump was 9.4 broad jump. That ranks 5th. This was a phenomenal IDP class. Speaking specifically about the DLs in general, do you guys have any guys that you were excited about?
Yeah, I personally liked Grayson Halton out of Oklahoma. 4.82, 36.5 vertical. He's got balance, speed, and explosion. I really think he kind of put himself down as like a twitchy player, and I think he looked a lot more agile than what his tape showed. I think he made himself some money. You just want to go one for one? Or you want me to just keep going?
You can keep going as many as you want.
Okay, for sure. Albert Regis out of Texas A&M. I don't think he did any one thing spectacular, but the way that he was moving with his footwork and his hips and how low he was, I think that made him some money. Caleb Proctor out of Southeastern Louisiana, 4.79, 1.69 split. At his size, small school prospect, so he's probably going to be 3rd round to like 5th or 6th. But I feel like he's a diamond in the rough. He looks like a really motivated individual. DeMonte Capehart out of Clemson, 4.85. Yes. He looks solid as well and everything. Dude, David.
Hey, did you see that, Mase? In regards to Capehart, right?
Yeah.
He had 6'5", 313, 33.78 arms. His 40 was a 4.85. He's moving up now, considering he was a rotational player. Sorry, I had to get that in. I was geeking out about Capehart.
No, for sure. Yeah, we were texting about him and stuff, man. But AJ was talking about the new bench press. David Gusta, I think, won it this year with 37 total.
Highest one.
So, yeah, good for him. He did really well, too. 1.68 split for him. The last player I want to talk about, though, is Caleb Banks. I'm usually not one to be like boo-hoo, but he was the biggest framed guy out there. I don't want to say he looked clunky, but he kind of did in his movement. He wasn't getting down low. It looked like maybe pad level might be an issue for him when he's moving in and out of stuff. And he only did a handful of drills before stopping himself because he had bad cleats on, or not the right cleats or something. I don't know, man. If I'm a prospect, this is the biggest day of my career up to this point. I'm putting on a show. I'm going to make sure I have the right shoes on. I'm going to make sure that I'm equipped and ready to go. Not his best showing.
So AJ, question for you. Mase hit them all these interior linemen. Me and you were talking about Lee Hunter. Depending on what room you're in, they'll say he had a good day and a bad day. Well, let me explain why he's a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, okay? Lee Hunter, Texas Tech, 5.1840, bad. 6'3", 4.8s. Got to put that 4.8s in there, right? 318 pound is a big boy. That's great. His 1.79 split is great. I look at that stuff when I'm evaluating a prospect. And then his 21.5 vertigo is bad. So he had 2 good metrics, 2 bad metrics. Where do you stand on Lee Hunter?
Watch the tape. Watch the tape versus Oregon. If, the Jags don't have a first. They need a defensive tackle. If he's there, I think with how he performed, he's not going first. And we'll talk about this in my mock a little bit. Those guys that kind of on the end of the first, somewhere in the second guys, I think he's kind of locked in to being a second-round pick now. Had he performed well across the board and showed more explosion and athleticism, I think a team towards the end of the first might be like, all right, that's our guy. But watch the tape. The tape. Watch the tape.
I will say his running club drill was phenomenal at the combine, I think. I saw it. I wrote it down right here in my notes. He had a really good rep on that. So,
So Mase, moving on, because we hit all the interior, moving on to edge, right? And this is a good transition point for both of you, actually. We're talking about edges right now in general. I put Arvell Reese back in with the edges because that's what he said at the combine. That was some of the biggest news. Don't treat me like a linebacker. I want to be an edge. He had a 4.46 split at 241 pounds. That's exceptional. A 1.58 split, 4.46 combine time. That's a big deal considering his weight. He's going to be a modern hybrid NFL. Do both of you guys consider him an edge was my question.
Yes.
I mean, I do, but it really just depends on whatever place he goes to. He can go to the Cardinals and they could ruin his career like they did Isaiah Simmons. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I've had guys that I think I'm like, man, he can play safety, he can play edge, he can play backer. And then he's not an NFL player after year 4. And it's like, dude, what the heck happened to this guy? So,
who are some of the guys you liked, Mase, as far as the edge position?
Malachi Lawrence, 4.52, 40-inch vertical. Dude's got an elite athletic profile. I think he kind of solidified himself in that top 5 rotation, maybe back in first. Some of those guys are going to run. I feel like along with defensive tackle, one goes off. We get like 2 or 3 guys, maybe 4 go off in like the next 10 picks, whatever, some trade up and stuff. Dani Dennis-Sutton out of Penn State, 6'6", 39.5 vertical, 10-foot, 11-inch broad. The power speed blend is insane. I need to go back and check his tape again. I'm definitely going to be doing that this week. Cassius Howell, despite the arms, I think he looked pretty athletic. What's that drill where they go and pick up the towels? He didn't do too well on that one, but aside that, I think he had a pretty good day. TJ Parker just showed us that he's as well-rounded as his tape shows. And speaking about his tape, I really like his tape because he plays inside and outside. You put that guy in a twist on a 4-man front, he's going to be a problem, dude. R. Mason Thomas, I think, made some money out of Oklahoma. A lot of Oklahoma and OSU players made money this weekend, man. I could go on and on. Vincent Anthony Jr. from Duke. He looks like he has solid speed. He might make a roster spot on day 3. Some of these guys being so fast, they're really going to be able to make their money as, I think, like kickoff, punt guys, things like that. So if they have a willingness to display that speed on the open field like that, then we're going to see some of these guys flourish, I think. AJ,
me and you watched the tape on Dani Dennis-Sutton out of Penn State, right? What's cool about him, Mase already said, 4.6, 340, 39.5 vertical, 131 broad, 6.93 cone. He slaps in real life. He slaps. He does. When we were talking about tape offline here, what's kind of interesting about him is the year he had Abdul Carter, he produced 8.5 sacks as the Robin to his Batman. The following season, he's the Batman. He produced 8.5 sacks. So here we know his floor. Here we know his ceiling. He's got all those accolades. Do you see that as, solid production? You take him early, or do you see that as that's where he's peaking? How do you rank, or how do you philosophize this prospect?
I'm never really high on Penn State defense.
I hear you.
I actually got into it in one of my college football 26 leagues. We were talking about taking coaching jobs, and he was talking about Penn State being a blue blood, and about hemorrhaged.
He's all rage baiting you.
Oh, he's known me for 30 years, so yeah, he knows exactly what to say. But I think you get what you get with him, right? You're going to get a quality player, but I don't think he has the potential to go to that next level, right? So, like looking at the rankings on here right now, he's listed as a 3rd-round guy. I think that's accurate, and I think you're going to get a 3rd-round player. I don't think you're going to get a stud. I see the same production value potential, actually, and now this is typical Jaguar fashion, Trayvon Walker, right? He was 1-1, but he was average. They drafted him on potential. You can get the same guy with the same production or potential of production 100 picks later. And I think that's what triple or double D gives you.
So just going a little deeper, this guy, hey, good showing, what have you. Here's a little handbag of players. Arvell Reese, he did what he was supposed to do, right? The 4.46, 241. We said that, right? David Bailey is another one right there going neck and neck with Reese. David Bailey had a 35-inch vertigo, 129 broad jump, solid 1.69. That's a well-rounded athlete. We already talked about Sutton. We talked about Lawrence. Keldrick Folk, I know he's getting hated, but the length and explosion combo, he confirmed what we already know. So I consider that a riser too. And here's a name for you. This guy's got teeth. This guy bites. This guy wants to go to the dentist. George Gums. Who the hell is George Gums? Sounds like a comedy starring John Candy. I don't know who that is. Who is George Gums? 41-inch vertigo, 121 broad jump. 41-inch vertigo at 245 pounds. That is rare and unique. I don't see it transitioning to our IDP, but that's a real lower body explosion I thought was neat. But those were my winners on the edge class. Thoughts, guys?
One more.
Okay.
The guy from Iowa, I'm going to butcher his name, and I feel really bad. I call him Mr. Fundamental. Max Llewellyn.
Llewellyn.
That guy, Llewellyn. Yes, Max Llewellyn.
I interviewed him at the Senior Bowl. Yep.
Yeah, he didn't force any one thing, but the way he was doing it, he looked determined. He looked like he's been putting in work. And he looked pretty fluid, so I'm excited to kind of see where he lands.
Yep, shout out to him and his family. I talked to his dad down there at the Senior Bowl too. Just funny how this community kind of works out. But yeah, he's a scrapper, man. Even at the Senior Bowl, I think he was in the top 4 or 5 with speed drills and run times. Kind of neat. Sticking with you, Mase, sticking with you. This linebacker core is phenomenal. The microphone is yours. Go ahead, fire away, my friend.
Yeah, so my top 6 prospects, I have prospects written down. I'm just blanking. I've got so many notes and stuff everywhere. Right? It's the week, it's the time. It's like Christmas Eve here. Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, CJ Allen, Anthony Hill Jr., Josiah Trotter, and Jake Galday. So Sonny Styles, everyone knows him. 4.46, 151 split. Dude's an absolute athletic specimen, made in the lab. You couldn't construct a dude any better to play any literal position on the field except for outside corner, right? But maybe he can because he's fast. But I think he's personally more effective at the line of scrimmage because of his ability to rush the quarterback, bring down the ball carrier in the backfield. He's extremely agile. I would play him anywhere but an inside defensive tackle. He's going to go in the top 10. It really just depends on who's going to get him now. Are they going to use him as an outside backer? Are they going to try to use him as an edge? That's really what that comes down to. Another guy, Caleb Alarms, or at TCU, 4.47.
You went there, my friend.
Speed, dude, and the vertical to match. Holy cow. He's a heat seeker, though, man. He was asked to play edge. I think he can, but I don't think edge is his natural position. He did have 4 sacks on 25 pressures, though, and his athleticism is definitely going to push him up. He's a really good off-ball tackler, man.
If I could, Mase, I just want to let the audience know, that's a deep cut right there. His 10-yard split. 1.59, that ranked 5th on the day. Vertical jump, 40 inches, that ranked 2nd, only amongst, Styles' historic 43.5 day. Broad jump, 124th, that's top 7. This guy's a sleeper. He's in every major analytical category already. But yeah, buy in on Oars. I love that. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, Anthony Hill Jr., outside linebacker. You got, I said 201. Sorry, my notes. 21 pressures in 2005, but 9 of them came against Mississippi State. He had 2 sacks. Yeah, no, the tape looked pretty good at some point, but those off-ball linebackers kind of sliding in drafts. So, but they are really good to have in fantasy if you can get a guy that is right next to like a true signal caller, right? A guy in the middle. Last guy I'll bring two more guys. Jake Galladay. He didn't do anything spectacular. His numbers were okay, but honestly, Charles Davis gave him kind of a nod and said that he could be a real sleepy green dot linebacker out of Cincinnati. Last guy, Kyle Lewis out of Pittsburgh. Yeah. So he was the lightest player that was a linebacker at the combine. He jumped 10 foot 9 inches. Dude, he was the quickest guy out there. He looked so light in the running club drill. I think he looked the best out of the linebackers as far as actually running the drill. I think he's going to be a special team stud that could eventually rotate himself into a, off ball or inside role, depending on what someone needs. Thinking like an Ivan Pace, maybe.
AJ, I'm going to throw a couple other names out here. Tell me who stands out to you. I know Mase already said Styles. He already said Hill. I got Jacob Rodriguez here. A lot of my questions were answered. He's made himself a ton of money this week. He's going to be a top 65 prospect. Listen to this. 4.5740. That was sixth on the day. 1.63 split, 38.5 vertigo. That's what third, only behind Orr, the aforementioned Orr and Styles. Sprinkle in some of his All-American, his Butkus award-winning, nominee, and, he got day 2 draft capital. I like your take on Kyle Lewis. I like your take on Jake Galladay. I like your take on Orr. Here's some deep shots, AJ, for you. Ready? Yep. Xavier Sorey. I've been high on this dude. I've been high on him. I've been calling my shot this offseason. He's a blitzing guy. He didn't disappoint. 4.640, 1.66 split, 37.5 vertigo, 125 broad. Those are decent enough metrics to put him in here. Here's another one, kind of one shot and goes. Jack Kelly, 4.5740. That's tied for fifth on the day. I already knew he was fast. Me and AJ already knew he was fast because down at Senior Bowl, he was a top 2 in speed and a top 2 in weight. So he's a big heat-seeking missile. I can see him as like a Sam blitzing linebacker next level, probably Sorey too. And in regards to Kelly and Sorey, I'm going to throw one more name. This guy I always bump down because he's just boring. Justin Jefferson, Alabama. His tape is boring. I don't get a lot of splash plays with him. But guess what? Today he was not boring. Listen to these numbers, all above average. 40 was a 4.57, tied for 7th. 10-yard split, 1.6, he's 7th again. Vertical jump, 38.5, tied for 6th. Broad jump, 125, that was 3rd. I don't know that much about Jefferson's game and why it's boring and how it translates, in my opinion. But this is a Madden player I can build, and I can build a team around. I was kind of interested in Jefferson as like an LB 14, 16 in my ranks now. I don't like to get too overly emotional after a draft, but I've moved him up over guys that are kind of slowing down the board. AJ, any thoughts on any of those names?
Wow, you listed off like 30. Yeah.
Just anyone you want.
Rodriguez is the easy go-to for me because, I'm super, super high on dude. First off, great mustache. Drafting him on mustache alone. The mustache actually ran a 4.4. He's married to a Black Hawk pilot. He's the Bednarik winner. And I was worried because we had talked about, the D-line that he played behind. Did they do all the work and he just kind of ate up and then he just stat padded? No, he did really just howl. I in my mock draft, I call them T-Rex and Velociraptor. It's it is what it is, but those are two names to just keep an eye on.
Excellent.
Two more guys, if I may. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have to do it, man. I totally forgot to talk about Josiah Trotter. He's my favorite linebacker personally in the class. Heat-seeking miss with 27 bench reps. Just wanted to throw out there. He didn't really do a lot at the combine besides get measured and do the bench. And then Aiden Fisher. No one's talking about this guy. He won a championship as a leader of the defense.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything. He's not like an athletic freak, but the guy can run a championship level defense. Give him a shot in the NFL, man. Did really good at the Shrine Bowl. Aiden Fisher. I hope he freaking pans out. Love that guy.
So on that note, Trotter, I kind of didn't put in my rises because I don't know what to make of it. He would have been a guy that could have popped at the combine, yet he didn't do anything. The bench is impressive. Where do you have him ranked if you don't mind me asking?
Okay, so like I want to put him in my top 3, but I didn't. I think I have him at like 5 or 6 right now, just because I tend to lean more towards, especially for fantasy, we know the green dot guys. I'm not sure if he is a green dot guy or more like a Servaka Dennis or someone who's, a complement to a green dot guy. So I'm not really sure. I don't know what teams are thinking. You could have a guy like Marislav, who we saw get drafted earlier than, a guy like Peyton Wilson. I feel like Peyton Wilson was more of a complete guy. So we could say all we want about these linebackers and how much they, run defenses and blah, 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 but teams really don't care.
Right. Hey, moving on to our last category. And AJ, you said it so poetically. Like, wow, you just named off like 30 guys. That's what we do. Over at the Fantasy Six Pack, we got this IDP draft guide. Last year, we had 300 players. I put 200 IDP players in it. Guess what? This year, I put 207 IDP players in it. These profiles are on my brain all the time. Anybody wants to check that out, go ahead. If anybody wants to check out the companion articles, we got those running over at the Fantasy and Frames this week. For this last category, guys, I'm going to kind of lead it because defensive backs is a slippery street. Just tell me who you like in here, and we'll go around the horn and we'll tell the audience where you can find you, what have you. For this defensive back category, honestly, it was a loaded day. It was a great day. I don't have too many fades. I would say Zakeet Wheatley and Kamara Ramsey, they didn't do much for their stock, but they're still okay. I'm not really hating on that. Let me read you the 7 or 8 names that I am excited about. You guys ready? First one, Dylan Thieneman, Oregon, elite. He had a 78 1/8 hand, 4.3540. That was third best amongst defensive backs. Elite, 41-inch vertigo. That was second. Broad jump, 125, third. I already had him as a top 50 projection, DB3 on my board. I still got him DB3, but he has the potential to push up to DB2. That's a guy. Another guy for you. I pushed him into top 15. VJ Payne out of Kansas. 440-40. That tied for fourth on the day. 35-inch vertigo. He jumps like Michael Jordan and AJ Veal. Solid day. 10.7 broad jump. Tied for fourth. One of the guys that I have higher than most, Genesis Smith. I call him a developmental project. He's not developmental in regards to that. I just mean developmental, like there's things he could fix, like his run game. But he pops in all the metrics. First off, Genesis Smith now led all safeties with a 42.5 vertigo. Elite explosion. Strong 128 broad jump. That was third. So he confirms everything I want out of testing. Next guy, Robert Spears-Jennings out of Oklahoma. 4.3240, second on the day. 1.51 10-yard splits, third. Strong jump, 35-edge vertigo, 125 jump. He tested good as a day 3 prospect. And then these next couple guys, they had some green dot moments, some excessive elite stats, but, didn't really cover today, but they were still winners to me. Guys like Bud Clark in their 4.4140 and 38-inch vertigo. Guys like Jalen Kilgore, 4.4040. That's still good numbers, strong jump. Some back-end deep shots. Deshaun Singleton, Nebraska at a 39.5 vertigo. And last but not least, everybody talks this name now because they've seen his speed. Lorenzo Style at Ohio State, Sonny Styles' brother, late invite. He ran a 4.2740, fastest overall. I know you like him, Mase. I know you do. I have him as a dart throw outside the DB 20 zone. I know I said a lot of names. Is there a guy in there? Is there a guy left out? What are you guys' thoughts? I'll start with Mase.
Yeah, man, you stole my thunder. I was going to say everyone's talking about Caleb Downs, but I'm going to talk about his teammate first and throw some respect on Lorenzo Styles' name. But no, you got it. Crazy thing is that the PFF mock draft simulator, we all use that, the PFF one as well. PFF had him ranked 232nd in their stuff before the combine. I guarantee you he's hitting hundreds after this stuff. I went back, dude. I looked at his tape. He's insane. He plays in multiple positions. He only had one pressure, but he played mainly strong safety. He can play slot. He can play deep. I mean, it's just that he had an absolute stud next to him. But if you put a guy like that in the NFL, obviously he's going to be targeted. But I don't know, man. Maybe he's a Robin, someone's Batman. So that's a name to look out for. Obviously, Caleb Downs, everyone knows about him. He can play safety, slot, deep, box, make your hot dogs, get your popcorn, and go and make the tackle anyways, man. Really good. The way that he reacts, he watches tape, dude. He's watching the way the linemen move. He's watching the quarterbacks. He's seeing lanes. He's coming down underneath and popping people, but doing it in not a respectful way, but a way that's not going to get you a 15-yard penalty or spot a ball penalty, Liked him. Andre Fuller out of Toledo, 49 combined tackles, 10 pass deflections. I love this guy's freaking red zone defense. The way that he boxes out defenders and kind of shortens, I guess, that length of the end zone for them to try to catch stuff. He's playing them, not the ball, and I feel like that's really good for him. You talked about the guy from Oregon, Thieneman, so I'm not going to say anything about him. Ephesians Prysock. Hope I said that name right. Every time I saw his name, I was like, whoa, what the heck? And then I'm watching him. I'm like, dude, this guy's actually pretty good. And when, you look at the data on the spreadsheet, everything's all green for him. So definitely going to go back and check the tape on him. Last one I want to shout, and another name I'm going to butcher because I'm horrible at names, out of Texas Tech, Cole Wisniewski.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. See, I can get that one. That guy, I think he's going to be a 4th to 7th round back-end gem. Stock went up with the Shrine Bowl, and I don't know. He didn't really play a lot of heavy talent in college, so that'll kind of get him as well. But just a name to watch. I think he's one of the taller guys too. So,
AJ, I'm going to start with you. You mentioned you're getting ready to do this NFL draft video to predict the pick and get a little write-up on that for the IDP Center here. You want to tell the audience where they could find you and what you're working on, and then the same will apply to you, Mase. Go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, find me on X at the Baby Cow 1. Coming on IDP Center, speaking, talking with Steve. I'll be doing a couple more articles this year, trying to be around, more present, dropping knowledge, hanging out with Steve, watching the draft, and you'll see me at the Expo again this year. I will be your favorite local Canton bar trick.
Oh, man.
Mase, where can we find you?
Yeah, find me on X at CaliKing40917. I got rankings, fantasy football, offense, defense stuff on Fantasy Pros. I'm over at the Sports Affiliation. We have a new series called Hypothetical. It's like a cross between the Marvel Universe and players. We take, current trade bait because Twitter's hot and everyone's trying to get impressions. We take the craziest stuff and we kind of, make logic of it. And our guy, JC, who's kind of like the leader of this project, does really cool graphics and stuff. So make sure you check that out. And then for everything Combine or just Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'm a writer over at the Bucs Wire for USA Today. So be sure to check me out there too.
Heck yeah. This was a great podcast, guys. Thanks for coming on, doing this with me. For the audience, be on the lookout for AJ's mock draft coming soon. That's all I got. This is IDP Hunter. Talk hard, everybody.